quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. It's where we all began. Welcome to Lazy Dog Typewriters.
Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone, sand, in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tells you that its sculptor well those passions read, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, the heart that fed, and on its pedestal these words appear. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing besides remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away."
Howdy folks, and welcome to Lazy Dog Typewriters. Thanks for joining us. When I look at the desert sand silent super you see in front of us, after hearing Kevin read those words, it really does give me pause to think about what it is that typewriters represent, at least to me anyway, and maybe to you too if you're a collector of typewriters or an enthusiast of writing and all that it represents. And what does that mean? What does it represent? Well, we buy typewriters not necessarily because they're new and perfect and shiny and plastic or metal. We buy them because they represent the opportunity for creativity, the opportunity to connect. And what's especially powerful is the force of nostalgia, even for those who weren't alive in the 1950s, such as myself. But the idea of connecting, especially if you can connect with someone who has used that typewriter before, that's what makes family machines so precious, is the idea that your grandmother or your mother or your father, him or herself, has used it to create, to express their thoughts. There is something, the essence of the user retained in the machine. Not a ghost in the machine or whatever you want to think of it, but when I look at machines like this, they have been used. They are not in perfect physical condition anymore, but they are still gorgeous, and they are, I think, even more attractive for the fact that they are imperfect. And that is true of typewriters in general, right? I mean, the idea that we don't have a spell check or autocorrect, the idea that we have to accept our first drafts, accept our imperfections, and work towards perfecting ourselves while still being gentle with one another about our own imperfections. So, a lot to think about as we introduce this silent super, a desert sand, made in 1955. This was essentially the model that launched 1,000 ships, if you will, of Helen of Troy. This model was so reliable that Smith Corona used the Model 5, which is what this is, just forever. It was the basis of their designs for forever. Just to go over the features really quickly, you've got cream-colored keys, you've got your ribbon color selector lever, you've got press and set for your tabs, which can be done here. The earlier variants had literal tabs in the back, as many of you know. We have our carriage release lever, and it's still a metal lever at this point. The carriage return lever. The carriage release levers, which I'll be into focus here. These are the carriage release levers, and they are wonderful and metal, and they never break, unlike their descendants, which sadly are breaking all the time now. These metal ones are just super reliable. You have your access to your tab rack, which you don't really even need anymore because it's all manually set from the front. You don't have to set the tabs, but you still have a vestigial, if you will, access. And we've got rollers for your platen rollers, feed rollers we like to call those. And what's interesting about this particular model in the 50s is you have a belt and suspenders approach. You have the paper fingers from the earlier models, the Model 4, 3, and 2 Coronas. And you also have the paper bail, so you kind of really get that paper secured. You have the so nifty page gauge where you can set and it will tell you, count down how much paper you have left remaining. Very nifty feature. You have your line selector 1, 2, and 3. You have a paper guide up here which allows you to put the edge of the paper where you want it. You have press to slide margins, which work really well. Let's hear what the bell sounds like. Nice and simple, just really pretty bells. The later Galaxy models are the one improvement that they had, was their bells are really, really resonant, and the the Super Sterlings also have good bells. And of course, just under the hood, we have what's called a segment shift, so the whole segment moves up and down when you shift it, when you type, and this kind of brings me into some of the imperfections, right? One of the problems this and many machines like it have is they've been stored in humid places, and water and moisture collect, and all of this wonderful soundproofing that the Silent Supers had, which made them the top of the line model, have been contained mildew and mold, and there's almost no way to fix them with antibacterial sprays and everything. You can try, but a lot of times it just doesn't work. So what I had to do is remove all of that and replace it with new felt. And it's not perfectly trimmed, as I am not really a seamstress, but it's good enough, and it dampens the sound, and it got rid of the gross mold that we see in a lot of these machines, and I'm quite pleased with it. Your serial number, in case you're looking, is over here on the left. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5HL. A lot of people think it's this number back here. The 5T denotes that it is a Silent Super. What's super about it too on the keyboard is you have a dedicated number 1 exclamation mark, you have a plus equal sign, and of course all your full character set, which would include the fractions and the @ sign, the cent sign, and all the things you would use. So just kind of looking at some of the imperfections again, this is a clear sign of use because someone sets their hand there, right? And it just rubs off. Also, this is an interesting one that I really like. Somebody typed this and they were probably right-handed, and that's just exactly where their thumb would hit as they typed on the keyboard. And when I get these, I have to ask myself, you know, and here, this is the classic wear mark right here, where the carriage return has been touched by someone's palm. I say, well, you know, how much of this should I repair and how much of it should I leave? And with this particular machine, the fact that it has such history, the fact that it has such signs of use, and the fact that it's still in such good shape after a very, very detailed cleaning, told me I should leave it. That I should imagine myself as Ozymandias, I guess, in the sense of like saying, hey, there are things that have been created and have shown the signs of wear, and we shouldn't try to hide that. We should embrace these signs of wear. All right, let's take another quick look at the case. And this is another thing that I just love about this particular machine. We've got here an Auburn number 1 1957, and I don't even know, I guess that must mean they were national champions in 1957. This is a 1955 machine, right? So you can imagine someone going off to college, let's say it was 1955, and sometime in their sophomore or junior year, Auburn wins a national championship. So that sucker gets stuck right on that case. We've got LaGrange as well. I'm not familiar with them at all. And then we have Auburn Fine Arts, and this kind of kooky looking person with maybe a professor's outfit, I don't know, and a painter for sure. And then we have North Carolina down here at the bottom. So I don't know if they went to North Carolina first and then Auburn later, and where LaGrange even fits into that. But it tells me that somebody took this off with them to college or colleges, maybe graduate school, and let's imagine that she probably was in the fine arts. And I don't think that many dudes went into the fine arts in the 50s, but it definitely could have been a man. But I just have to guess, and part of guessing is the fun part. They took it with them and they treasured this machine. This machine cranked out term papers. Maybe it wrote essays on Shelley, the poet, who wrote Ozymandias as well. So who knows? Its wheel has come full circle. But speaking of wheels coming full circle, let's put our typewriter paper in and give you a typing test so you can see this machine in action. All right, and action. Ozymandias by Shelley. Days works mighty in despair. Alright, I've chosen a green and black ribbon because it just seems appropriate for some reason, for the desert, I guess. The Silent Supers have a wonderful typing touch. It's very much akin to what 55 Chevy would be like. It is nothing but just completely comfortable and easy to use without being flashy. The space bar, the carriage motion, it's just a great machine. If you could have only one machine, boy, you would be hard pressed to be unhappy with having a silent super, or really any, the sterling, the silent, of this same body. But of course, you would want to have the number 1 and the plus equals, I should say, as well. If you are just getting into typewriters, this is the kind of machine you really want to find. Something that's in great physical shape. It writes really well, has been cleaned and restored, but has some imperfections. And if you have one that Grandma has or that Grandpa had, well, go get it and get it to a local serviceman, or watch some videos yourself on how to repair them, or even maybe buy one from me. That wouldn't be too bad either. But I just hope that you are able to connect again, like the traveler in the poem from Shelley, with the past, without being haughty like our King Ozymandias, to be humble and to look forward to connecting with your own creativity and focusing on connecting with your fellow man rather than making works for your own self-monuments or monuments to self. Thanks so much for joining us in this philosophical Lazy Dog Typewriters. We'll look out upon the backyard of the doghouse. We wish you were here and gaze on these mighty works and rejoice.
Don't buy this typewriter. Don't buy this typewriter in spite of its history. Buy it because of its history.
Please like, subscribe, and share.